There's a few following mine.
There he is. Hey, listen, I don't know about y'all. You tell me how your lake is going, but I feel like my experience is that bass are getting extremely conditioned to the traditional jig head minnow. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you can't catch fish on a jig head minnow anymore. All I'm saying is there's other baits out there that I can get more bites on now. Let me tell you what I did. I decided to take a subscriber from my fishing school on an in-person fishing trip. And well,
and I'm about to give him my bass boat for the day. Would you do that? Here are the keys, buddy.
His name is Jaden Potter. We fished together for 2 days and I let him have my boat and he made all the decisions for those 2 days.
Today? You want to start shallow, deep, in between?
Probably start somewhere a little deeper.
A little deeper?
Find some bait.
I pretty much done come to the realization, you know, I'm one of the old heads now, so I like to give the young guys a little bit of grief. I like to make it a little hard. I gotta razz them a little bit.
Wait, by the time I get mine tied on, I'm about to show y'all boys the juice. Good, I mean, give me some more, give me two, give me one more. That was good. What's your plan there, son? I got a lot of jig heads today. I can break off a jig head every 10 minutes and still have jig heads.
Let's see if we got some in here.
I will say this though, just as I predicted, by the end of the trip, I think I proved to him that sometimes there's a better bait than the traditional jig head minnow. You don't have to do what everybody else is doing.
That's a medium size, for me anyway. Drop kickers, drop them. That's probably £1.75, I would say, 175. Since we're in a competition today fishing against Jaden, that one's about 4.5 pounds.
Yeah, about 4.5.
4.5, 4 3/4, 5 and 5 1/4.
Sometimes you can catch them on a better bait. And that better bait is the one I'm about to tell you about right now.
Y'all, I want to show you one of the most famous techniques for catching bass right now is using some type of jig head minnow style bait. Everybody's using it. And listen, I want to let you know that that is not new. It's not something that just showed up on the scene and is new. It's been around for years and years and years. I would say at least 20 years we've been fishing a plastic like that. So most of the context of fishing this is within using forward-facing sonar. But for you people that don't have forward-facing sonar, don't feel like you can't catch fish on the baits that I'm about to show you right now. When you find the schooling fish that will not hit anything else, they won't hit a jerk bait, they won't hit a crank bait, they won't hit a swim bait. A lot of times the fact that minnow style baits like what I'm about to show you have very little to no action make them actually a better lure for you to use in those situations. Sometimes fish just get accustomed to a lot of action and they don't really want to bite it that well. There's a new bait that I've been using, and here's the reason that I think it works so well. For the last what, 3 years, forward-facing sonar has been really popular. Everybody's using it. And everybody's using, let's just call it what it is, a fluke style bait. Here's one we've been fishing today. Just a fluke style bait. You've seen it. Old double breast. Everybody's been using that. I feel like the fish have got accustomed to that. Let me know how it's been on your lakes where you live. We fish a lot of deep water. Our water's clear, so they've seen this profile for years and years, and now there's even more people fishing. And I feel like they just got accustomed to that. And I'm getting to the point where I don't get as many bites on the fluke style bait. I'm not saying it doesn't work. Of course it'll still catch fish, and there's days where it still out catches the bait that I'm about to show you. But I've had much more luck recently with this new bait. It's called a drop kickers. Does it have a minnow style? I guess. I mean, it's more like a little bitty swim bait, but it's a very subtle action. And it's the exact same size as a short shad forage that's in the lake. Where I'm fishing, the fish feed on threadfin shad, they feed on blueback herring. Those are two, and crawdads, but the shad forage is either blueback herring or threadfin. A lot of times the threadfin is really small. This bait comes in 2 sizes. Where's the small? So it comes in a 3.5 and a 275, 2 3/4. I'll show you so you got a reference of how big they are. And I use both of them. If I can get away with it, I actually prefer to use the smaller one. You know why? I can get the smaller one down to the bottom faster. By the way, I made a kit with all of these on shopblat.com with the right size braid, right size fluorocarbon, right size jig head, and my favorite colors to use for this technique. I got it on shopblat.com. You can go there and buy it. When you're fishing the way I'm fishing out here today, being able to have bottom contact and being able to reach the fish faster is very important. So there's times where I actually like the smaller one better. I've been using the 3.5 because it's the last ones I got in this color that I really like. Does the color matter? Probably. We're gonna talk about that here in a minute, but I've been using, this is electric shad, and it's just my favorite color, and the only size I have in electric shad is a 3.5. And guess what? I've been catching them just as good on the 3.5 as I have the 275. What I want to show you today, I'm going to show you all the gear that I'm using to fish this bait right here. You can get everything that I'm about to show you on my website, shopblat.com. And I want to talk to you about why I use the gear that I use. So let's start there. We'll come back to the plastic in just a little bit, the actual lure, the rod and the reel. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Hey, real quick. This year I'm actually sponsoring 2 fishermen. Yeah, that's right. I'm going to pay the entry fees, tournament entry fees, provide gear and tournament support for 2 anglers to fish the BFLs. Here's how you win that. You got to be a part of my straight up fishing community, my straight up fishing school, where I teach people how to be a better fisherman. Not only do you learn fishing lessons from me, but sometimes we bring in other professionals to talk about specific techniques, baits, and even talk about new gear that's hitting the market before most people even know about it. So join the community, check the description box for more details about how you can be a sponsored angler.
So I don't really like to use anything bigger than a 7-foot rod for this technique. The reason that I like a smaller rod is the closer I keep the bait to me, the better I have control of the bait. If I got a 7'5", even a 7'3", it doesn't seem like that much difference, but a longer rod is gonna put the bait further away from you, and it's just really aggravating to place it where you want to place it in the context that I'm fishing the bait. If you were casting it out trying to reach a touch fish, 7'2", 7'3", 7'4" might be the deal. I'm fishing vertically a lot with this, and a shorter 7 foot 6'6" would be even better if I had that. 6'8" to 7 foot is what I feel like the sweet spot is on the rod for this combo. I've used several rods today. This is a bull bay rod. This is 7 foot. This one right here is a 13 fishing. It's a 7 foot medium. Actually, this one's a medium light. No, it's a medium mod. This is a 13 fishing. And I've also used the Level NGX. I've been looking for a rod that I really like. This is a 6'10". It's even better size. I feel like I like the shorter rods a little bit better. But use the shorter spinning rod you got. But the main thing is it needs to have some really good, y'all have heard me in my videos before. I want that rod tip to have some, I don't want it to be a, when I set the hook. I really want a rod tip that's got a lot of, it's real soft for a couple reasons. Jaden can tell you, I'm fishing with Jaden. He's a subscriber within my Straight Up Fishing app. The bite is real subtle.
Yeah.
If you had a stiff rod, when you're sitting there shaking it, he would feel you. And you'd probably lose the bite. If they feel you, they'll turn it loose. But if they can't feel you, with a softer rod, I feel like they'll hold onto the bait. They can't feel your pressure quite as good. Other reason you want a softer rod is you're using small line. 6 pound test is what I got on here. So 7 foot or less, soft rod tip, usually no heavier than a medium, maybe a medium light. Just remember that rod action, rod power is not level across rod brands. If you buy one rod, a medium light might be completely different than a medium light in another brand. There's no standardized action and power on rods. So just know you want something that's kind of soft, the softest one that you got in your rod arsenal. You don't have to go buy another one, just get the softest one you got. 3000 series spinning reel. You can use a 2500 if you want to. Let me tell you why I'm using a 3000 series spinning reel. I'm using straight fluorocarbon today. Yes, people still use straight fluorocarbon. I know that's taboo. Nobody does that anymore. Let me tell you why I do that. So braid to fluorocarbon is good for this technique, and yes, it will work if you want to do that. The main reason that I'm using straight fluorocarbon is I am going to break off a lot. Where we are, there's timber all behind me. You can't see it because it's below the surface. All behind me, all around me, surrounded by submerged timber. And we're fishing our bait. We're catching our fish 30, 40 foot down on the bottom in that timber. And so I need a bait. I need a bait that will get down there to that depth. And oftentimes I snag up. It's an open hook bait. This is what it looks like. I literally tied on my rod that I'm fishing today. It's open hook, so it snags all the time. So when I'm using braid to fluorocarbon, I got 2 knots I got to retie every single time. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I want to keep fishing. So with straight fluorocarbon, I got 1 knot to retie when I hang up. Could I rig this weedless? Yes, I could. The problem is it doesn't fall fast enough when you rig it weedless. I could easily take this over, turn it like a shaky head, and have the hook pointed and probably get my bait back a lot more. But I just want to catch the fish, guys. We can buy jig heads at this point in my life. I could rig it like that, and I have done that before. It doesn't fall nearly as fast, but it is weedless this way, and you probably get it back 50% of the time if you rigged it that way. 3000 series straight fluorocarbon. It is a lot more difficult to manage this. If you're using straight fluorocarbon on your reels, go with a bigger reel. If you're using straight fluorocarbon, go with a bigger reel. Let me try to explain this the best way I can. All right, so listen to this. Fluorocarbon is that hard, dense product. It's very coily. It's not very forgiving, not very easy to deal with. The best way I can explain it in an exaggerated analogy would be, imagine comparing weed eater cord to sewing thread. The weed eater cord would be your fluorocarbon. The sewing thread would be either, Jaden, don't you hurt us back here, buddy. The sewing thread would either be our braided line or mono. Dang. And so, did you come on with him then, Jaden Potter? But you can understand how the weed eater cord would be much more difficult to wrap up than sewing thread, just because it has more memory, it's stiffer, it's more dense. With the bigger spinning reel, the coils on your reel are in a bigger circle, so it's easier to manage. If I take that same material and I reduce the size of that coil, it's going to have more memory. And so it makes it more difficult to deal with. If you decide to use straight fluorocarbon, I highly suggest that you never go over 8-pound tests on straight fluorocarbon. Even 10-pound tests is a mess to deal with. It's already pretty difficult. I only get about 1 or 2 fishing trips on a spool of straight fluorocarbon. You get more line twist. There's a downside to it, but the upside for me in this situation, I feel like it's worth it. So I go with the straight fluorocarbon. You can go braided fluorocarbon. It's okay. You'll still catch fish. I promise you. I'm just lazy and I don't like to tie a lot of knots. That's the rod reel combo. 6, 7, 8-pound test, since we got all these fancy pound test lines, straight fluorocarbon, or you can go braid 10-pound test, 8 or 10-pound test braid, and then use whatever fluorocarbon you want. It doesn't matter. Let's talk about the part that everybody loves to talk about. What's the engine? What's the catch engine of this system? The drop kickers is what I like to use. I'm telling you, try it on your home lake. I highly encourage you to try it. If you're using forward-facing sonar, if you're catching fish and shad, if your lake is clear and it has shad, I want you to try this profile and let me know how it works for you. I think it will make a difference. You will see a catch ratio with this style bait, just because it doesn't look exactly like every other minnow style. The jig head. Let's talk about what this whole system entails. The jig head. This is the one I like. The Z-Man Finesse Shrooms jig head. Is it the best jig head on the market? Well, it depends on what you call the best. Does it have the strongest hook in it? No, it doesn't. That's why I use it, actually. This is gonna make sense after I explain this to you. So it's open hook. Like I told you, we do stay snagged up quite a bit. With 8-pound tests, listen, even with 12-pound tests, I know a lot of people say they bend these hooks out. If you're bending out this hook on a spinning rod with 10-pound tests, first of all, you got the wrong rod setup or something going on. You are not bending out this steel hook with 10-pound test line. Unless you're trying to on purpose. You're not doing that on a fish. That hook is plenty strong enough to catch a fish. I've caught 16-pound striper on this jig head. 16-pound striper. None of y'all catching 16-pound bass. Nobody. Out of these 200 and something thousand subscribers, none of y'all catching 16-pound bass, okay? So, with that being said, I like this hook for the simple reason there are times when I do get it hung up, and if I force it, I can get this hook to open up a little bit and get my bait back, which then saves me time. All about time and efficiency, personally. So I like the Z-Man finesse rooms. Y'all go ahead and use whatever you want. If you want to buy expensive jig heads, if you fish somewhere where you don't snag that much, maybe you can get away with that. But where I fish, I'm going to snag. I'm going to break off. We've probably broken off 20 jig heads today. And it's 12 o'clock. We've been fishing probably 4 hours. So I like that jig head rigged exactly like how you see it right there. So depending on the day, depending on the mood of the fish, I know somebody's question is going to be, do I use the 3.5 brine or do I use the 2.75? Listen to me, Barry. Look me right in the eye. You listening? You need both. Because there are days when they bite the bigger one better. Why do they bite the bigger one better some days? I don't know. I don't know. I just have them. And if I drop to fish, or if I'm around fish, or if I'm throwing where I think there's fish and they're not biting, I swap to other things. And so then I'll swap to the smaller bait. Maybe they're feeding on smaller bait that day, then I'll use a smaller one. Maybe it's more sunny and the fish are more finicky, like they are right now. We've dropped on a lot of fish today and hadn't caught them. I'll use a smaller one. So you'll just have to kind of move it around and see what is the best size for you to use for that day. Let's go into colors a little bit. So this has been my favorite so far. Colors. Right now I've just been using electric shad, and when I'm out of electric shad I go to shiner. Why do I do that? Because it's working. I don't have a really deep reason why I've been using those colors. So shiner and electric shad has been my two favorites so far. I do have some other colors. I think this bait is going to come in about 8 colors. I'll show you some of my other favorites too. I'll use these when it's kind of cloudy, or if I'm just not getting bit on that particular color. Twilight's a really good color to have in your arsenal. Probably my second favorite after I go with the shad colors. And I don't have every color here with me. I've got about 4 or 5 that I really trust to get me bites, and that's kind of where I keep it at. So Twilight, for whatever reason, and make sure you just listen to me closely what I say right here. This is all opinion, not based. Twilight, the pink color. I personally like it better in the summer, and for whatever reason, I feel like pink works better around brush in the summer. I don't know why that is, but in the winter, I don't really do that good with the pink. I don't have a reason why. All I'm saying is, in my experience, when I throw the pink, I get less bites this time of the year. The color that does work, especially for spotted bass for some reason, is green pumpkin goby. Even when they're feeding on shad, all of these fish are spitting up. There's probably shad all over the deck of my boat. Green pumpkin goby still works when they're eating thread fin. I don't know why. I have no idea why they bite it, but that is probably that's probably my third or second best color to use. Green pumpkin goby. If you ask me, I think it's really dark down there at 30, 40 feet, and just the silhouette of the darker bait probably shows up better, so I can get their attention, so I can get the bite better. That's my explanation for it. So that's the color. That's the, if I were gonna rank them, if you told me I was only gonna get, let's just say 3 colors. Number 1, by far is gonna be that one, electric shad. Then I'd probably come over here and get green pumpkin goby. And then my last one would be Twilight, the pink, for some kind of crazy scenario. If you think about it, that kind of makes sense. I didn't really premeditate that, but I just thought about what I would fish if you only got me 3. Shad. That'll be shad color. That'll be your crawdad color. And then your pink would be your crazy Cindy Lauper color. You gotta have one crazy one in there. Whether that be chartreuse, whether that be pink, any kind of fluorescent. There are days that fluorescent colors just work better. So pink. So there's actually like verified science behind that, behind the fluorescent colors. We talked about that within the app before, but fluorescent colors are a thing, especially with any kind of bass. That's why pink is so good. That's pretty much the entire system. Now where you go, where you put that bait at, where you fish it, the context of how you use it is a very deep conversation, but it works. There's not really many lakes where you can't catch fish on minnow baits, especially a jig head one. We thought that it was limited to clear water, spotted bass, and smallmouth lakes. It is not. We have found that out. You can catch them anywhere on it. So get out there. You can try this kit that I've made for you guys at shopblat.com, or get whatever you like to use. Whatever minnow baits you got in your tackle box right now, you can do about the same thing with them that I'm doing here today. And you're probably gonna catch fish, especially when you get into these cooler months when the water starts to get in the 50s. Depending on where you live, it could be the 40s. That means it's time up when you hear that. Could be the 40s. The fish will bite these baits mainly because this is what the fish are feeding on, little minnows like this. So if you match that or have something that resembles that, you're gonna catch fish. Give it a try, let me know how it works for you.